it's our responsibility together, collectively, to become the best version of ourselves that we possibly can be, because it's only in doing that that we can be valuable to other people.
Right. You know what's interesting about this episode that you and I are doing? I never have notes. Once in a blue moon, I have notes.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I just walk in when you start talking, and it goes decently enough. But I have like 100 notes.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you think you did that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I want to get to the bottom of why.
Look, I'm here till tomorrow. We can get to it.
I think, why did I do that? Well, you and I met at Kenny Sing a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
Then we kind of reconnected. How long was that? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
In person.
In Austin, yeah, at Allie's event. But we just hit it off. We had a blast together. I think we had breakfast both days.
Mm-hmm.
We hung out at the after party. And I feel like there's so many things that I like about you and admire about you and respect about you, and we have a lot in common. And we see. I mean, we've made the same social media posts without even knowing multiple times.
That was
Crazy. And you are multi-layered. You're you know, for the fitness industry, I feel like you're very fucking deep. You know what I mean? And I had a blast spending time with you. You know, so like. Why do I have all these questions I don't even know? We'll figure it out as we go.
I'm here to answer all of them.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying all of that. First thing I should say is when I came back and started talking to our team about, you know, the reason I'm traveling more often is because I tell our clients, you got to get out of your business and go into your town.
Yeah.
My town is the world. We can work with clients from anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to start traveling more. Every time I do, I meet people who make me better and who I want to take parts of me and say, I want this part of me to be more like that person. I came back and you were the person I was talking most about with our team.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. Because, you know, it was, I talked to them about the way that I discussed with you when you were doing that improv thing and you had one extra person come up and you gave that person something to do instead of just saying, go back to your seat, and how you noticed that little detail, how you like to ask all of the questions if you can to let the other person be the star. And one of our core values is to reveal the exceptional in everyone we come across.
It's awesome.
And so when you invited me out here, I was like, I'm coming back out to Santa Monica.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And the fact that we've made the same post several times
right.
without knowing the other one made the post is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, well, before I get into all that kind of stuff, let's just get your background story a little bit, you know, kind of how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So what you said was true, and it's actually one of my biggest problems. The depth that I actually, I'd like to believe I have.
Yeah.
Because the easy stuff for me to talk about is how coaches can make more money, how gym owners can make more money, and how both of them can do that in a way that feels fulfilling by serving their client in a way that no one else is even trying to. And how, you know, helping people get out of pain without going to the doctor, missing the gym, live an uncompromising life. I can do that stuff in my sleep and it's boring for me. And so I don't often talk about it. And it's because of the background that I have that I want to talk about the stuff that is more meaningful to me, that I know ultimately ends up with those results.
Yeah.
But people want to hear oftentimes how to get those results.
Right.
And don't tie one to the other. So my background is fairly straightforward. I continued to solve my own problem until I ended up in this room with you. So I was a personal trainer and I was uninspired by the results I could get for clients. And I would go upstairs to the physical therapy suite at the gym and the physical therapist had nothing for me. They would say they're too old for it, that, you know, if it hurts, don't do it. I was like, this sucks. So I went to chiropractic school. I was going to save the world. Get out of chiropractic school. I wasn't into snapping necks and cashing checks. That wasn't my style. So went out and practiced on my own, got really good at soft tissue, like really good. And I found myself in this position that I owned a successful CrossFit gym and a successful clinic where people were flying in from around the world to see me. Olympic medalists, professional baseball players, CrossFit Games champions, all of them.
Wow.
There's a lot I'm skipping there. I'm skipping a lot of the heartache and difficulty and that got to it. I'm just giving you the cliff notes. But there was plenty of failure along the way. Got to the point in 2017, I had a full schedule one day, And I looked at it and I was like, this sucks.
Hmm.
I don't want to do this. I don't want, like, I don't want, it just felt like there was nowhere else to go. So I left clinical practice, left the gym, started my online company, which was Active Life RX at the time. We were helping people get out of pain without going to the doctor, missing the gym.
Hold on. Why did it suck? Why were you?
I think it was one of those, the adage of never meet your heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And I met the version of me that I always aspired to be and didn't like it.
Interesting.
It was, I think I was looking for a lot of external stuff. I was
Yeah.
looking for other people to recognize my greatness. I was looking for other people to tell me, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to, at the time, I lacked the maturity to look inside and say, okay, well, you have these people flying to your office to see you.
Yeah.
How could you have a bigger impact? How could you grow what you're doing from this to the next adjacent thing that makes sense? I wanted it now. I wanted it faster. I wanted it bigger. I still do.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself driving to my clinic in the morning and being like, this is it.
Huh.
It's not enough.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what was the? Actually, before we go to the next step, cover some of those heartaches along the way,
dude.
and some of the challenges
We
along the way.
could do a whole podcast on those. The first one was I was running. So I'm on business number 9 and business number 10 now. I like to tell people I've failed at more things than most people have tried.
Okay.
Those businesses were some of them were real, some of them were silly. Like I tried to launch a backpack company. I tried to launch a personal training company into hotels in Manhattan, and got close. Just didn't get there. But the first major failure was, I remember I was working 17-hour days, 16 to 18, whatever it was, Monday through Friday, and a 12-hour Saturday, owning an event company, my gym, and my clinic. I wasn't clearing $30,000 a year. My wife was a teacher. She was making all of the money.
Damn.
And
When you say event company, what do you mean?
CrossFit style competitions
Gotcha.
in iconic locations.
Okay.
And I remember my wife and I going on a walk one night. She was pregnant. It was 2014. I can still see it, right? Like I know exactly where I was. She says to me, I don't want to be a single mom. I'm like, what? That was like a gut punch, because I knew she didn't mean she wanted to leave me. She didn't want to break up. It was that I wasn't present. And I don't know if I know you have, actually. I just don't know specifically what it was. You have a moment that hits you, and it's enough to shake you, but not enough to shake you off of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it led me to start thinking.
Like you were never present?
It was hard to be mentally where I was.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a really good doc. I owned a really good gym. My event company was awesome. And all those things were true. But there was no money coming in for me from it. And that's because I didn't know how to run a business, and I wasn't that good of a person yet. I didn't know any better. I knew what I knew. So it led me to start thinking, okay, what am I going to change? About a year and a half later, we have our kid now, and our event loses $26,000.
Wow.
We didn't have a working capital account. I was responsible for $13,000 of the $26,000 that we lost, because I had a business partner who was responsible for the other half. We had $15,000 in our personal savings account that my wife had put in there. We were saving for a house we were going to buy one day. I was terrified to tell her, I just lost $13,000 of the $15,000 that you put into that bank account.
Jeez.
So I remember walking into the kitchen of my house, feeling completely emasculated.
Right.
I felt powerless. I felt like I was useless. Like, this is the first time in my life that I was going to tell somebody else, my irresponsibility has hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
I was crying, and I told her, and she hugged me, and she was like, you're my penny stock. I believe in you. We'll get through this. I had told her in our wedding vows I was her penny stock, that she was investing early and it would work.
Okay.
That was after the gut punch of a year and a half ago. That was the uppercut that follows. I was like, I'm changing everything. I'm changing everything. So I signed over with no income. Like, I just gave away my shares in the event company. Like, I don't want a part of this. It's not going to get me where I want to go. I went to the gym and I delegated every role and reduced my income even more, because I'm like, I'm not going to coach anymore. I'm not going to manage it. I'm done with it. makes it, it makes it. If it doesn't make it, it doesn't make it. Went to my office, changed some things around so that I could free up a few dollars, and hired a mentor who I couldn't afford for $1,000 a month. And he'd meet with us once a month. And the first thing he said to me is, if you want to be more successful, you have to become a better person. And I was like, what are you talking about? I treat everybody how I want to be treated. And he said, yeah, you do. And I respect that about you. And it's why I decided to take you on as a client. The problem is you, deep down, are a fucking psychopath. And most people do not want to be treated like a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how do I need to treat people then? He said, you need to treat them how they want to be treated. I said, well, how do I find out how they want to be treated? He said, you ask them. I said, how do I ask someone, how do you want to be treated? And he said, well, now you're asking much better questions. And that was the first year of my life I ever cleared $100,000, and he never taught me business.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that story now because I don't see that. You know, people who find out about you now or come across your social media, or whatever, that's the exact opposite, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what makes that story so great.
I always had empathy, and I never understood how to deploy it.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to do the right thing for everybody. But I was the guy who, like, you can't upset me unless you've punched me or somebody I love in the face. So hearing that somebody, like, really took something I said badly never registered for me. I remember telling an elite athlete I was working with who had just done well at the CrossFit Games, but, you know, now she wanted to win. She wanted to go work with a coach who I was fairly confident was going to damage her career. And I was not her head coach, so there was no conflict for me. I could try to collaborate with anybody. And I remember asking her, look, do you trust me? And she said, yes. I said, do you want to win or not? And she's like, I do. I said, I think you're making a mistake. And I thought she took it well. I found out 2 years later from a friend of mine who was also working with this athlete on something else. She did not take that well.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That ended up putting a wedge between my relationship with her. I was like, that's mind-blowing to me because I thought that's how she wanted to be spoken to.
Yeah.
It's how I would want to be spoken to.
Right.
So a lot of lessons like that were learned along the way. You know, I learned that I'm the guy, I didn't know it until afterwards reflecting, I'm the guy you want in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
When Hurricane Sandy hit, lost my house, my gym, my clinic in an hour. All of them. And I remember going to the gym to assess the damage. And mind you, we had just come out of a lawsuit. Our next door neighbor sued us for making too much noise.
Damn.
We won the lawsuit.
Okay.
Cost me $120,000 to defend ourselves.
Jeez.
I didn't have that.
Yeah.
We win outright. 2 weeks later, Hurricane Sandy. Boom. Gone.
Oh, my God.
I remember going to assess the damage. My wife is crying. My business partner is crying. His wife is crying. And I'm thinking about painkillers. Like, what did we do wrong this time that we could do better next time? Let's just do it better.
Yeah.
It wasn't until years later that I realized what a setback that was. They all felt it in the moment. So I'm good in chaos. COVID, we gave away almost $2 million worth of coaching for free during COVID. Because I remember being on this island myself where the whole world just collapsed for me. And there were people who came to my aid. You know, Sandy was interesting because the rest of the country wasn't dealing with it. Right. The rest of the world wasn't dealing with it. So I'm over here like, well, this sucks. No one really gets it. But then people chipped in. They sent us brand new equipment, like brand new used equipment. But it helped us get back on our feet. And I'll always remember those people.
Yeah, wow.
And so when COVID hit, I was like, I need to be that person to other people because I know how to fight when shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah.
And so we gave away almost $2 million worth of coaching for free. We were putting out media. I was bringing my friends who are brilliant, influential, and successful onto Zoom calls every Wednesday to meet with whoever in the community wanted to come. I'm talking about people like Rachel Balkovec, the first woman who ever coached in professional baseball, Justin Sua, who is the mental performance coach for the Cleveland Browns and Boston Red Sox at the time. Like high caliber people who were just giving their time to the community. I'm good at war.
Yeah.
I need to continue getting better at being good in peace times too.
Yeah. Interesting. Now was part of that struggle because I saw you post one time that you like an argument. You like to disagree, and was part of that, and maybe talk about your evolution through that now.
I like to disagree and argue because it's how I learn.
Okay.
When I go into any kind of a debate, and I don't do formal debate, but I'm talking about when somebody disagrees with me and they say something and I get into a conversation with them. My interest in that is to ask questions of them so that I can learn their perspective.
Right.
And either have more empathy for them or shift my position or both, whatever I need to do to be a better me. A lot of people...
I love that, though, because you're not going in feeling like I need to be right. I need to win this.
I'd actually rather be wrong.
Yeah.
Because if I go in and I'm right, I'm like, shit, I didn't get anything out of this except I need to do a better job communicating so that these people understand why they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's not as valuable.
Right.
When I can go in and get, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's really interesting. And start to change my perspective on stuff. That's how I grow.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that most people prefer not to have a conversation of that intensity.
True.
And all I'm looking to do is ask the necessary questions for them to reveal everything that they're thinking. And then I'll do with it what I decide afterwards for myself.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm right. I don't care if they're right. I just want to learn. And so when, for example, when Israel-Palestine broke out, I'm a Jewish kid from New York, right? I had my initial preconceived notions. I knew there's no way I could be right about everything that I'm thinking.
Right.
There's no way I know enough information. So I would get into conversations with people on the other side of the argument. I haven't shifted all the way to, wow, I was totally wrong. I have shifted to, this is what I need to understand to be able to have a conversation with this person about the way that these people outside of the two of us are acting makes me feel.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't understand before.
Gotcha. Let's go back now to, so you said you were unhappy, you shut down everything, and then you transitioned to the next phase of your career.
Yeah. So one of the lessons that I would share with anybody who owns a business is start with vision, especially if you're in a business with a partner. Where is this thing going? You don't need to know exactly where, but you need to know north, south, east, west. So you don't just start walking south when north is the actual intended destination. My business partner, who I had at the time, was inspired by our successful clinic. And he was a better doctor than I was. Patients liked him more because he wanted to be in the room.
Right.
I wanted to, if I was the patient, I'm like, get me out of here. Treat me and then free me.
Yeah.
He was like, how are you doing? How's your kid? Really good at that. I didn't have that. It was energy expensive for me. So we started this online thing accidentally because these athletes...
Is that still you today? Are you not a small talk kind of guy? Or?
I hate small talk.
Okay.
I want to, like, I like deep talk.
Yeah.
I want to get to the real stuff.
Yeah.
And I just found that in a clinical setting, there are numbers that have to be met for the practice to be successful. And if you're in the room with the patient for too long, it's not going to happen.
Sure.
And by the way, we were in the room with patients for 15 to 30 minutes. So it's not like we were rushing them in, rushing them out. But what he was good at doing that I still don't think I'm excellent at is getting to a really meaningful conversation with an out. I felt like I was faking it.
Okay.
Because I needed more time to get where I needed to go because of my naturally comfortable set point.
Yep.
Right? I would go straight to, why do you talk to your kids like that? Not people aren't ready for that after, nothing.
Yeah.
So he was good at the right amount of depth and the right amount of time. We were working with these people who were flying in and then they would go home and we'd have to write an exercise program for them while they were away. And those people you had to have a depthy conversation with. You've worked with elite athletes. You have to be careful not to mess with their psyche.
Right.
And even the workouts you're writing can blow their psyche if you bury them too much.
Yeah.
So I loved that mental gymnastics game. And I just saw like there was a world of people who were dealing with aches and pains that were withholding them from living their life, who didn't have somebody near them like me, who would come and work with me if I would make it available to them. So we started doing this online stuff and dabbling with it. And pretty soon it became obvious to me that if I put all of my attention into this, it would be a real business. No idea how, but it would be a real business. And the pain of not doing that trumped the satisfaction of the success we were having day in and day out.
Yeah.
So I left one for the other.
Yeah. So how many years has that been now?
2018, January 1.
Wow. And it seems like, doing incredibly well. You have multiple layers of the business. You have multiple people working for you. Kind of describe, how things run nowadays.
So Active Life now has, I believe, 30 employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
They're great. It's what allows me to be here in Santa Monica talking to you and not thinking about my business.
Yeah.
It's truly ours more than it is mine. And what's happened is, like I said in the beginning, I just keep solving my own problems. It was work with patients who are flying into town. Okay. Well, when they leave, they need help, right? So yeah, I'm going to solve their problems and my problem by writing remote programs and learning how to talk to their coach so we can collaborate. Problem solved. Then what happens? You've helped thousands of people from around the world. Their coaches want to know, how are you doing this? And why am I struggling to do it?
Yeah.
Started educating coaches. Then what happens is one coach in a gym starts to have financial success and gets results with the clients more than everybody else. Like a gym owner looks at their payroll, they're like $500, $1,000, $2,000, $9,000. What's the difference here?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would start to reach out. What's going on here? How do I get more of my coaches to do this? So I started helping gym owners, and I say it was always we.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was just my friends who had spare time, and now it's a real machine. Then the gym owners would get to like 70% of what we would ask them to do. We would see a gym, like a CrossFit gym, go from doing $20,000 a month to doing $70,000, $80,000 a month, getting results for clients that they never thought they could get before, talking about how gratifying it was. And we knew they were still only scratching the surface for what they were capable of. And our business model that we had drummed up was just too scary for them to implement. So in January of this year, 2023, we opened our flagship brick and mortar in Long Beach, New York. And the idea of that was to be a test kitchen and a proof of concept. By the time that we got to June, we were clearing $50,000 months.
Nice.
They were with 20% profit. Our staff over there are all on salary, and they get bonus when the business does well. So going into 2024, the lowest pay we'll give to a staff member who is working as a coach there will be in the $70,000 a year range. And that's someone who just started a few months ago with us.
Wow.
So now our clients are coming to us saying, okay, we get it. How do we go from being in this warehouse space or this even a retail space, but with the aesthetic that we have serving the client that we serve, making good money, to doing that? Because they see that our ceiling is 120 clients, which will generate almost $2 million a year.
Damn.
And pay.
That's what you have in the brick and mortar in New York.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
That's what we will be at.
Gotcha.
And when we do that, that will pay 6 people in excess of $120,000 each.
Damn.
And will be 30 to 40% net profit. And we'll get clients results that they can't even go ask somebody else about because they don't understand.
Yeah.
That's extremely fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so we right now have several clients who are actually coming to us, bringing to the table partnership agreements where we would become a legitimate partner in their business, an equity partner in their business, change the name to Active Life, move it to a location that is more desirable. And then we become responsible for all the stuff in their business that gym owners don't like to do.
Right.
And they get to just be amazing at their jobs and still own most of the business.
Wow. This is also impressive and interesting to me. So let's talk a bit about that. What are you teaching? So I want to talk about the fitness professionals that you work with, and then what's different about the gym owners. I want to talk about how you teach marketing, how you teach sales, how you teach people skills, because you're really big into that, you know, and you do things differently than the majority of the fitness industry.
It starts with the awareness and the acceptance that most people who would join a gym, no matter what the gym is, are not doing it to get fit.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they want to feel the way that they think they will feel when they're fit. What is that? We have to know what that is with every person. No one joins the gym and says, yeah, I'm here because my wife doesn't look at me the way that she used to because my belly and I'm not confident. No one joins the gym and says, I'm worried because my parents have heart disease and I want to be around for my kids. They don't join the gym and say, I don't feel comfortable going to the beach and taking my shirt off. They don't join the gym and say, I feel like my body and my fatigue are affecting my ability to be successful at work and nobody respects me. But these are the things that they're thinking.
Yeah.
If you ask the right questions. And so now what happens is their hope is, I joined this gym. These workouts will give me that result.
Right.
And sometimes it does. And usually it doesn't. We teach the coach how to get to that real internal driving force, and then how to ask the appropriate questions to help that person change their life so they become the person they need to be to solve those problems. And fitness is a part of it. The coach needs to have a robust network of people they can refer to and be agnostic as to who gets paid for the problems the client comes to have solved. Everybody ends at health and fitness. Not everybody starts there. So for example, in the month of August, I just know August statistics, we got 30 people who inquired about joining our flagship. The average person who enrolls with us there is like, I think they would pay like $12.50 a month. So of the 30 people who called to enroll, we referred 17 of them out without inviting them in for a consultation.
Wow.
We didn't think that we were the best place to help them. We sent them to other gyms, to mental health professionals, to medical doctors, to physical therapists. We were like, look, we want to help you.
Yeah.
And our service here is not right for you yet. So we called our people and we connected these clients directly with them. It wasn't go to their website and book an appointment. It was, Jay, this is Nicole. She needs this, and I thought you could help her. 17 of 30 people.
Damn.
Now, the other 13, 11 of them, 13 we invited in, 11 showed up, 9 enrolled.
Okay.
What I think is important for people to hear about that is, if you scale that across the year, when you average in our client values.
Just real quick, when they come in, is it just one-on-one, or you do like semi-private? Or
I'll share that with you in a second.
Okay.
It's more than both.
Okay.
If you add up the 17 people we referred out without even inviting in for a consultation, that's $255,000 of business that we turned away. Because we believe it's all going to come back to us.
Right.
If we started with them now, it's more likely they fail.
Yeah.
And that we fail them and that they don't come back.
Yeah. It takes real vision and clarity and purpose to be able to do that. And confidence, for sure.
It's that.
Yeah.
It's the confidence that we're still going to be here.
Yeah.
When they're ready.
Right.
And we don't need to rush right now.
Yeah.
Like I like to tell people, think about the people you're trying to help as people who are laying on a bed of nails. What gets them off the bed of nails? Because if it's that they don't make enough money right now and they need to learn how to make more money, you trying to sell them a gym membership that they are adamant that they can't afford, they're not ready to listen to that yet.
Yeah.
If they go to work and then they come home and they numb themselves with alcohol, food, Netflix, and Instagram, and you're like, you just need to start bench pressing more, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
That person, we need to send that person either to mental health or to someone who can help them with financial literacy to free up the space. And then ultimately they become the person who comes back and they're like, hey, now that I respect myself, now that I love myself, I want to make myself better, and fitness is part of what I need. They're ready for you, and you don't have to sell anything.
Yeah.
So our model is discovery call to see if we think we can help and if we want to help. There are people we think we can help, and there's an energy there that we don't think we're a good fit for. So we refer them out. let's say we think they are a good fit. We invite them in for a consultation. That's 60 to 90 minutes long. It's a deep dive interview and a basic evaluation of the way that they move, what they're comfortable doing, what they're not comfortable doing, and then a prescription and an offer if we think we can help. We sell, in the beginning, it's personal training and education, and they're together. And we have built formulas through the thousands of training sessions that I've done that have led to, we know if you answer these questions in this way, you need this many training sessions to hit this goal.
Okay.
And so we sell them mentally on committing to that.
Then when you say education, what does that look like?
Formal education. So let's say, for example, someone comes in and they say, it hurts when I do this. What do? We can't have them come in and say it hurts when I do this because that doesn't tell us anything. We've all laid down on the massage table and told the massage therapist, that hurts. And then they've said, do you want me to stop? And then what do we say? No, keep going. I need that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we know if what you're experiencing in the gym or when you're walking around town is what you need or is bad for you? We need to put a construct to that. So we teach them how to describe it. We teach them the difference between irritation, pain, injury. We teach them how to know if what you're doing is going to get you better or if it's making you worse. We teach them how to communicate with us what they're experiencing. We teach them how to make decisions around all of that. We teach them what things they need to tell us that came up in between our last 2 sessions. So we're not saying, how were your last 2 days? Good. How many hours did you sleep? What'd you eat? Were you stressed? Boss down your throat? Fight with your wife? If we have to ask all of those questions every time and then modulate the workout based on what they respond with, we never get there.
Yeah.
So we educate them on how to think and how to experience so that they can come in and tell us how things are going.
And that's in real time when they're in the facility, or what does that look like?
Yes, and.
Okay.
So, yes, in the facility.
Uh-huh.
And we have education that we provide to them, that we assign to them to go through when they're at home on their own. There are quizzes in there, so they have the ability to actually see, like, do I understand this or not? A simple example of that.
Now, do you have people have an initial reaction saying, dude, I don't want to do this. I just want to come and train. I don't want homework.
Yeah. And for those people, we say, okay, you don't have to do homework. You just need to understand that there are going to be days you come in here and you don't work out because we need you to understand these things. And if someone says that's not for me, then you're not a client for us.
Yeah.
And that's a great example of something that would come up in a consultation that wouldn't come up in a discovery call.
Yep.
That we would say, look, there's no reason to move forward from here. And we have a client right now who needs us to help him more with his nutrition. We don't do nutrition. And we've asked, we do basic nutrition, but we're not counting your macros. We're not giving you timing. It's basic stuff.
Okay.
So, because that's a wormhole. So we asked him, do you want us to connect you to someone who can do nutrition for you? And he said, no, I don't need another relationship. I don't need to spend more time. I need you to solve this problem. Just so happens this guy has his own chef, right? An assistant who orders for him when he goes out to dinner. Like he's not living an average life.
Yeah.
It was great because it challenged us on how great are we. Not great enough to solve this guy's problems. And if we can solve his problems, we can solve anybody's problems. So now what we're doing is we've got him a nutrition coach who he's never going to meet with. We're going to meet with the nutrition coach on his behalf. We're going to then feed that information to his cook. We're going to feed to his assistant exactly what needs to be ordered when he goes on the road. And he's just going to show up and eat what's in front of him.
I love that.
So we needed to be open to changing how we do things and passing that cost on to him.
Yep.
So that's the answer. When people don't want to get educated on things, our thing is we want you to be independent. We want you to be free. A life of freedom without compromise, period. And we have to be able to see that through everybody's lens. Through his lens is, I make a ton of money. I want to use my money to access that freedom.
Right.
I don't want to have to learn about protein, fat, carbohydrates, and nutrition timing. I just want to show up and have the right stuff in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can do that for you.
Yeah.
The education stuff is non-negotiable.
Okay.
So when a guy like that will come in, he has to be ready to sit down and learn this is the difference between insult, irritation, pain, and injury. This is what a setback is. This is how you know if you should keep going. This is how you know if you should stop. This is how you need to talk to us. We teach them how to be great clients.
I love it. But now let's talk a little bit more about how you train the trainers, the coaches, all that. And again, specifically, I want to get into definitely the people skill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, everything you do, that's what I find so impressive about you is unique. Like your whole approach to everything. So I want to talk about the people skills and the communication with the trainer, coach, and the client, and then maybe your thoughts on marketing and selling and this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So most of that comes. So the program for the client in the brick and mortar space, just so you're aware of how it ends, is they end unless they want to stay as a personal training client, they end with individual design in a group setting.
Okay.
Which in the end, their last 30 days would be no program written for them.
Their last 30 days of how long? How long do most people come in for?
Could
it varies.
Be, yeah. So we just want to make sure that they have the ability to
Is there a minimum?
We have a list of KPIs
Uh-huh.
that they sign off that they want these KPIs, and when they hit those, they're done.
Okay.
And some people are like, look, I want to stay forever. That's
Yeah.
fine. Some people want to go back and train at the $20 gym.
Okay.
You got it. But so that's how it ends. They genuinely get educated to not need us anymore.
Before we go on to the question I just asked, let me ask you another question.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the actual physical location, the brick and mortar, and the culture there, from the design to the music to all those kind of things. 'Cause I'm always fascinated by that.
So the first gym I ever worked in, I left the day that the owner set me up to sell a bag of steroids to a member without knowing.
Really?
Yeah. He was not a good person. And he's the guy who used to bang the hot chicks in the gym in his office.
Uh-huh.
But he had windows he could see out.
Okay.
So if his wife came in, the chick could leave out the back door.
Wow.
I didn't respect him.
Mm-hmm.
But I was learning a lot. I was around real hardcore bodybuilders in this place. And I learned how to rewire machines, all that kind of stuff. Everything. I knew what I didn't want to be.
Okay.
I like working out in spaces like that, but I don't want to own that. Then I went and worked at Equinox, and all of these different things started to influence how I think. We designed...
How was that experience?
Equinox?
At Equinox, yeah.
It was great for what I needed it to be.
Okay.
I was fortunate. The personal training managers I worked under were Joshua Harrison and Michael Caparuso, who both still work at Equinox in corporate. They were great leaders. And I learned a ton from both of them. I owe a huge debt of gratitude to both of them for shaping the way that I train. But my thing is, I get like a negative emotional and visceral response to having to cut a corner on something.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that the only way to not cut corners is to charge people what the corners cost.
Yeah.
You got to make a wider turn. It is what it is. So before we opened the flagship, I spent a ton of time getting inspired by the way I wanted to feel. I asked hundreds of people why they don't go to the gym, or why they do go to the gym, what they like, what they don't like. The number one reason people stopped going to the gym is they were uncomfortable. They didn't know where they were supposed to be. They didn't want to get in somebody's way. They didn't want to grab somebody else's weight.
Yeah.
They didn't. That blew my mind because I've never felt that.
Right. So crazy.
So when you walk into our, number 2 was like, it smells bad. Number 3 was the energy is just too aggressive for them.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was it's loud. Everybody knows all of the reasons people don't go.
Yep.
Intuitively, except the one that I don't know where I'm supposed to be. So when you walk into the facility, you're greeted by someone at the front desk and a scent that we formulated that is specific to us so that you remember how you felt when you were in our space. No hormone disruptors, all legit natural stuff. And those things are hidden all over the place. Our waiting area doesn't face the gym floor, doesn't face the training floor. It faces outside. There's soothing music playing up front. It smells beautiful. It's well lit, soothing music. When you're going back into the space.
Both of those things are amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
The idea was remove friction.
Yeah.
Not create luxury.
Yep.
Remove friction.
Amazing.
We have markings on the wall that describe this is the leadership office, not the manager's office, the leader's office.
Mm-hmm.
This is the mentorship office, not the coaching office, the mentorship office. You're going to start speaking our language. When you walk into the bathrooms, I tell people they're nice enough that you would feel bad leaving your piss on our seat. That's it. It doesn't need to be the Taj Mahal, but you would feel bad leaving your piss on our seat. We formulated our own hair shampoo, conditioner, body wash, hand lotion. because our clientele is going to have natural high performance stuff in their house. They don't want to come to our place and use, I don't know, Lubriderm.
Right.
Right. So we wanted to meet them where they were. You take off your shoes when you leave the front of the space to go onto the training floor. You either wear different shoes to train or you're barefoot. The lighting, there's a light overhead that makes a right angle and it indicates a false hallway. The idea is if you're under the light, you'll always be where you're never in somebody's way. Everywhere that you would train, when you look up, it's very dim light over your head. The space is bright, but if you lay on your back, you're never going to be blinded by lights that are over your head. Our lockers all have phone chargers in them so that there's no reason for you to bring your phone onto the floor.
Yeah.
Put it in the locker, charge it. Your phone is not welcome on our floor. We have a landmine at every client station. We have an anchor cable column at every client station. All of the anchors are set to the exact same height when they're not being used. All of the landmines are up and the pins are turned to the back. It's a small thing that our staff does to remind themselves that we pay attention to the detail.
Yeah. I was just going to say the attention to detail is so impressive. I love that.
It's everywhere. Like we specifically ordered the mats that we order for the ground, like the flooring, to be a little bit softer, just a little bit. You don't even notice that it's softer. You just don't notice that it's hard and abrasive.
Yeah, right.
Right. I have to direct people's hands to the floor when they come in for tours. Like trainers come out to look at it. I'm like, feel the ground. Like, oh, I didn't even notice something. You could do everything on this floor, but you don't notice how good it feels until you walk on a different one.
Yeah.
Our weight, you'll never see a weight turned at an angle. They're where they're supposed to be, and they're lined up properly.
Right.
All of these things are hyper intentional, and most of them go totally unnoticed by our clients, but we know.
Yeah.
And it's just to remove the friction.
Yeah. I absolutely love all that. It's so impressive.
Thank you.
So let's get into a little bit more about, how you coach the coaches, the trainers, all that.
It starts with the premise of when people come and ask, why are you guys so expensive at the flagship or even online? Why are you guys so expensive? Because we are a premium. I love to ask, well, let me ask you, who are your favorite people? Like in your life, outside of family? They tell me who they are. I'm like, what do those people do for work? They tell me. I'm like, what do you admire about them? They tell me. I say, what kind of money do you think that person earns annually? They tell me. And it's typically in the six figures. And I ask, would you like a person like that to be the person who's helping you transform from who you are to who you want to be? Or would you like somebody who's willing to work for much less? I'm like, I never thought about it like that. I say, I want you to think about it like that. I said, no, I would want someone who reminds me of the people in my life I admire most. I said, great. Those are the only people we hire. And in order for me to acquire staff of that caliber, I need to pay them the way that you would expect somebody of that caliber wants to be paid. And the only way for me to run a viable business is to pass that cost on to you. You can go anywhere else in town, work with somebody for less. Would you like to continue moving forward and talking about this? And they're like, yeah.
What a great answer.
It's the truth, man.
Yeah.
And, we're solving more than what they come in for. We're solving what they think they came in for and the thing that we know that they need to solve for to become the person who wouldn't have had that problem in the first place. So now the question is, how do we develop the staff to become that? Most training education is out of a textbook or it's a weekend seminar. Ours is 13 months.
Damn.
Of 3 to 5 hours of rigorous education a week, plus about 15 hours of applying that on the job. So you're making money while you're going through our education, but you're learning how to become a different person. People come in thinking it's fitness and business, and it's who are you? So that's one.
You're big on the who versus what.
We like to say it's be, do, have. Be the person who you want to be.
Yep.
That person does things that you don't do. When you do the things that that person does, you will have the things that that person has.
Yeah.
So be, do, have. Not do, have, be. People this is one of the things I love about you. So often people wait until they think that they are capable of delivering value to other people. I need to have more money. I need to have more time. I need the team. I need my own freedom so that I can give to you. That's backwards.
Yeah.
You need to be the person who would give to that person already.
Yep.
And then you will, and you'll be blown away by what the world gives you back.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to break the beliefs early on that people come in with. Like I said, the curriculum is the least of it, but the curriculum is 3 to 5 hours a week, 15 hours of applying it, 800-page textbook that we wrote, 1,000 test questions, over 100 assignments, a one-on-one mentor, video calls every single day with our subject matter experts that you can get onto, as many calls as you need. You need to talk to somebody one-on-one, we will get on a call with you and solve for the problem you're dealing with. All of that.
Now, is this mainly trainers that have worked for a while, or are you getting people just straight off the street saying, I want to do your thing? I've never been in the fitness industry before.
The only time that the latter happens is when they're coming from, like, I'm a nurse practitioner, I'm a physical therapist, I'm a physical therapy assistant, I'm a physician assistant, I was a doctor. Like, we get a lot of that.
Gotcha.
But what I like to tell people is get your teeth cut. Like, get your feet wet.
Yep.
Figure out a little bit about, like, do I even want to be in this industry first? We're not looking to bring the 1%, the bottom 1% to be the top 10%. Mm-hmm. We're looking to bring the person who's already top 10% and knows it and is so adamant that they become 1%, the top 1. That's the person we want to help.
Yeah.
If you're coming to us and saying, I don't know how I'm going to make my second payment, the person who is going to be successful with us, even if they don't know how they're going to make their second payment, they never tell us that because they know they're going to figure that out.
Yep.
It's typically people who have enough self-esteem to know that they're going to figure this out and we're going to help them. Whether they have the free cash flow or not, they find a way to do it. Mm-hmm. That's who we help. Now,
love the way you phrase that. Have enough self-esteem.
It's confidence is circumstantial.
Yeah.
I'm confident that I can represent our company well on this podcast. I'm not confident that I can do it after Navy SEAL boot camp and Hell Week. Right. I have the self-esteem that if I failed to doing it in that regard, I would still know who I am, and I'm not a lesser person because I failed at that.
Yeah.
We need people with self-esteem, and we can help people build even more of it, and we do. But so the education, the mentorship, the networking, the community of our clients, that's all good. The way that we help them become the people they need to be is by saying the thing to them that nobody else is prepared or willing to. It's checking them on every little piece of language that they use. A great example is someone coming in and saying, I am confident, but I'm afraid that this, or I am confident, but I'm just not sure how. We're going to ask them why that's a but instead of an and. And we're going to break down for them. When you say, I am confident, but, what you're really telling us is, don't listen to what you just said. Only listen to the next thing that you said, because you just negated it. I am confident, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Perfect. I am confident, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. They're two very different statements. Our team is meticulous about catching our clients in their language and asking them to think about, where does that come from? And that simple shift early on leads to some really uncomfortable conversations that lead to some very significant breakthroughs.
Yeah. Were you always, hold on, because I'm sitting here and I'm so impressed by what you're saying, but I want to go back to a point, and I don't know what that point is. Were you always this much of a deep thinker and this cerebral about this kind of stuff? And how did you get to the point where, like, because a lot of this stuff you're saying is just fucking next level.
Thank you.
And so how did you, was there a turning point? Was there, like, are there books, like, I mean, because it seems like you've recited How to Win Friends and Influence People and all kinds of books like that and all this kind of stuff. Like, let's go through that a little bit, and then we can kind of come back to this. But
so
it seems like it would take a decade plus to develop these skills and this way of thinking.
I did not always have these skills, and I did not always think this way. And one of my unique abilities is rapid implementation.
Okay.
So I'll always remember our first time we ever did a seminar for gym owners. I was talking about how to price personal training 2 weeks earlier online. And when they came out to the seminar, I changed the way I was doing it. And this guy raises his hand. He's like, hey, that's not what you told me 2 weeks ago. That's not what you told me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, when did I tell you what I told you? He goes, 2 weeks ago. I said, okay, do this instead. It's better. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I will take what I used to do and kill it.
Yeah.
If it's not the best thing I can possibly do.
Right.
I'm not a huge reader. I like to read sometimes.
Okay.
But I'd rather watch documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather work with mentors, and I'd rather have conversations like this and listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I have developed this kind of thinking is by steeping myself in relationships with people who would not continue relationships with me unless I evolved to think this way.
Yeah.
That's
Love
the
that.
number one thing.
Love it.
And hiring mentors has never let me down.
Right.
Ever. Even the mentors I hired who I was like, I don't want to be like you. I learned what I didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm grateful to them for that. That's how I got here, I think. And maybe it should have taken a decade. But my thing is, why wait? Just be that person now.
Yeah. So if you learned something today, you're implementing it tomorrow and kind of perfecting it as you go over the next few weeks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I trying to think of a good, I learned from you when we were in Austin. When we were getting set to go get breakfast, I was texting with somebody while I was walking towards you. And I knew my phone would be in my pocket by the time I got to you, but I was texting. Didn't think anything of it. Then you go up on stage and your talk is about how to show up, how to have presence. One of the things you talked about is, if I'm going to come and talk to you, you think I'm going to be on my cell phone when I show up? I'm like, fuck, I just did that. I've not been on my cell phone when someone has been walking in my direction or when I've been walking in their direction since. In fact, I was texting with somebody before we started today, and I said, hey, ask whatever questions you need. I will answer tonight because I'm about to jump into a podcast and I want to be present when the guy shows up.
I love that.
So I'm immediately implementing whatever I think is better than what I was doing before.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that something you've always done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wasn't getting yes and no. Yes, if I believed it.
Gotcha.
Now I'll implement things I'm not sure about and see how I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like trying on a coat, and I'm going to wear it for a week before I decide if I want this coat or not. Instead of just, I don't like that coat, I don't want to wear it.
Right.
So I implement a lot more things now than I did before, where before it was, that makes sense, I'll do that. That doesn't make sense, I won't do that. And I would write it off, dismiss people, dismiss ideas. Nothing gets dismissed anymore.
You know, one thing I think a lot of people who struggle to be fully present are missing is the high that it is, right? Like, as you're talking, I'm so engaged and enthralled by what you're saying that I'm so fully present that, like, I don't even know that anything exists in the world. And that's a real high that I don't think a lot of people know, because they're always like, fuck, what do I got to do later? They're checking their phone, or they're, what didn't I do? Whatever it is. And I think you're missing out on a lot of life. If you can develop the ability to be fully present, it really does, like, all the feel-good hormones are skyrocketing right now. You know what I mean?
It's a shared flow state.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually, like, people talk about getting into the flow state, get like get your room to smell like this, get the right temperature, sleep this much the night before, all of this stuff. Sure. Or be with somebody in a conversation.
Yeah.
And don't be anywhere else at the same time.
Right. It's amazing. Let's go back a little bit. Let's touch on, because I feel like the fitness industry and maybe, let's say, hardcore gyms, CrossFitters, whatever. I know a lot of CrossFit gyms to this day still downplay, we don't sell, we're not good at marketing, whatever. That's like their badge of honor, right? So let's talk about. I'm sorry?
It's martyrdom.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a bit. Your approach to teaching how to sell, how to market.
So the first thing, again, I like to go back to first principles. Right? You keep asking me these questions, and I like to go back to the mindset you have to do it.
Yeah.
Most of the time when people are thinking about sales, they're thinking about, how can I make more money? you're screwed.
Yeah.
You've already lost.
Right.
You can't sell effectively from that place.
Yeah.
And you will make so much more money if you would change the way you think about that. The first thing that we teach people about sales is it's not about whether they buy or not. It's about what are the consequences for the rest of their life if they don't work with you. You need to know those intimately. You need to understand the cost of inaction for that person. Sometimes it's not big enough to make it worth it that you try to sell them. Sometimes it's so big that you have to be prepared to sit in that room and let them cry hysterically before they enroll with you. You need to know which one it is.
Yeah.
So it starts with what is at stake for this person? And am I genuinely the only person who can solve it? Can I share a story with you?
Sure.
Where this
Please.
gets cemented in me?
Yes.
This woman named Brittany calls my cell phone one day when I was by myself working online. A few people were helping, but they were all part-time. Can you help me with my shoulder? Yeah, I think I can. I got to ask my husband when she gets the price. It was $200. I said, okay, go ask your husband, call me back. Isn't going to enroll. I'm like, all right, whatever. Her loss, right? 6 months later or so, she calls again. She's on my schedule. Pick up the phone. She's like, do you remember me? I'm like, yeah, I do. What's going on? She's like, well, I ended up hurting it pretty bad, and the doctors think I need surgery now. Do you think you can help me? And I'm listening to her. I'm like, you know what? No, unfortunately, I think surgery is probably your best option. She starts crying. She's like, thank you for talking to me. I understand. I can feel her sadness on the phone. Hangs up. I felt so bad. I was like, you lacked the patience, the skill set, the language, the empathy to help this woman 6 months ago. And so she needs surgery.
Wow.
However long after that, back on my schedule. I'm like, damn, this is interesting. The moment I pick up the phone, I hear what she would describe as ugly crying. Like boo-hoo, like snot, that kind of crying. I had surgery number 1, and then I ended up having surgery number 2. Things started getting better. And then one day I was cooking in my kitchen and I heard a pop, and my shoulder has been hurting ever since. Oh, man. I went back to the doctor, and he told me I need surgery 3, maybe surgery 4, and perhaps shoulder replacement. She's 34, 35. Can you help me? Now I'm like, damn, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was honest with her. I said, look, honestly, I don't know. I don't know. My thought, though, is you don't have much to lose. And I would be open to trying if you're open to trying. She said, okay, yes, please. She says, it's $200 a month, right? I said, no. It was $200 a month a year ago. It's now $279 a month or whatever it was. I'm like, and I need you to buy a year up front. $2,800. She's like, a year up front? Why? I said, because I know that this isn't going to work fast.
Right.
And I know that if every month you're thinking about, is this worth it to pay again next month? You're going to quit and it's not going to work. So, okay. I was ready to spend $200. I talked to my husband about that, but I got to ask him about this. I was like, you can ask him. You want to call him while we're on the phone? And that conversation led to a lot more tears. It led to, this might lead to divorce. And I said, I understand. And I stayed on the phone until she enrolled.
Wow. So she did call her husband while you were on the phone or no?
No, she ended up deciding if he leaves me because I did this, I don't want to be with him.
Right.
She works with us. She enrolls. A year later, shoulder problems are gone. She comes out and she speaks to our group of gym owners and told them something she never told me. She's like, I used to see women put their hair in a ponytail and think about hurting them because I couldn't put my hair in a ponytail.
Damn.
She's like, I even considered ending it all.
Jesus.
And I'm sitting, like, I'm now crying. Like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
She was a client of ours for over 3 years. She had her pain was gone after like 6 months. Hasn't had a shoulder problem since. And she indirectly taught me the lesson that I have to be the best salesperson in the world, because if I'm not, I fail that woman.
Wow. What a powerful reframe for people who don't like selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I can think about the cost of inaction. And sometimes that cost of inaction is inflated in my head and I'm wrong. I'm like, this person is going to end up with, they're going to become even fatter. They're going to end up with diabetes. They're going to be they're dependent on their significant other. And my brain will go there sometimes. I don't tell them that.
Yeah.
I don't throw that stuff in their face. But I think about that when I'm talking to them. And I ask them, how important is this to you? And my favorite question to ask people when it comes to sales is, if you worked with me and got all of the results you're asking me for right now, you're a coach. Starting with us is $15,000. And you're afraid to spend it because you're not sure you're going to get the results. Okay. Or you've told me, I know I'll get the results. I'm just afraid to spend the money. Okay. You're sure that in the end of this year, you've made all of that money back, plus you have a career that allows you to make triple what you're making right now in a way that you're fulfilled doing your work. I come to you and I say, you have a choice now. Give me back the $15,000. I'll give you back the $15,000. I'll give it back to you. And you don't get any of the stuff that you got over the year. You go back to where you are today. Or everything stays as is with you having the new career and I get to keep the money. You take a refund? They always say no.
Mm-hmm.
And then I level with them. What I'm hearing then is that the truth is you're not actually sure this is going to work. That's my responsibility to be more clear on.
Yeah.
When you're selling, there's 3 conversations happening at the same time. The one you're having with yourself, the one they're having with themselves, and the one you're having with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, sales is like teaching someone to play poker with the cards down. You have to play with the cards up.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people when we're getting into a sales conversation, there are 4 things that you're going to need to be confident in before you're going to feel reasonable you can buy. You need to trust me. You need to trust my company. You need to trust how we solve these problems. And you need to trust yourself to be able to do it. I need you to share with me all of the reasons why you don't trust those 4 things. It's my job to either tell you I think I can bridge that gap and then to do it, or to tell you I don't think I can help you then. That's all people are thinking about when it comes to sales.
Yeah.
It's never the money.
Yeah.
They think it is, but it's not.
Right.
It's a certainty.
That's so powerful. And so that's something that you really work on with people who enroll in that program.
We work, yes. So we like to teach people that when you're selling something to somebody, shift the paradigm. They're selling, you're buying. They are selling you that you can solve their problem. If you can't talk them out of working with you, they're going to buy. And there's not going to be a lot of haggling over price.
Right.
The reason why oftentimes people run into problems with sales is because of the way that they've done it in the past and the people they've served in the past. Personal trainers who've been training clients for $70, $80 a session or less, when you tell them, I need you to charge $150, they're like, nobody's going to pay that. And they're right. Nobody they've worked with is going to pay that. But there's an entire different group of people who won't pay $70 because it doesn't feel valuable enough to them. And they've spent their entire career working with people who value $70, not people who value $150. So they have no exposure to it.
Yeah.
It's like if someone walked into a Toyota dealership and the Toyota dealer told them this car is $50,000 for the base model. Everybody would be like, what are you talking about? But if that same person walked into Mercedes and they said this car is $50,000 for the base model, they all say that makes sense. So you have a choice. You can sell Toyotas, which requires huge volume, or you can sell Mercedes and Ferrari, which doesn't.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I know the answer to the question, but do you do anything where you tell people, yeah, sell on volume, sell on lower price stuff? Is there any time where you would think that would be in this kind of scenario?
Yeah, there's a time for it. We just don't help people with it.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's just on my podcast, the Active Life podcast, Pat Damiano. Great trainer with kettlebells and non-conventional training methods. He called me asking for help. And I asked him, do you want to go deep with a few or shallow with a lot? Like, would you rather light the spark or tend to the fire? And he's like, that's such a great question. I'd rather just light the spark. I don't want to have to get deep into all these people's lives. I was like, people need that, man. I'm not excellent at teaching people how to do that. And I told him he should enroll in some mentorship with a friend of mine named Mike Bledsoe.
Okay.
And he's been thrilled.
I know Mike. Yeah.
Like, there's a client for everything.
Yeah.
You just don't have to be the person who services all of the clients.
Right. We may have already covered it, but what are some common mistakes that gym owners make?
So when you're a gym owner, there's a pre-existing condition that is the belief that your equipment are assets and your people are liabilities. So I'm not going to invest money in the education for my trainers because they're just going to take it and leave with the clients.
Right.
Okay. That's been your experience. Why are they doing that? And then it comes down to pay, opportunities, upside for the trainer, the way they're supported in that business. And then you go to the trainer and you're like, why would you leave? And they're like, that guy doesn't care about me. And then the owner's like, well, if I did do these things, I have no reason to believe you would stay. And they're like, well, I have no reason to believe you would do these things. If you had these conversations with people at the same time. Because we mentor commercial gyms in their personal training department. We build it out for them. And we had these exact conversations with gym owners and their staff all the time. CrossFit gym owners and their staff all the time. The person who has the authority and the power has to go first. You have to take the chance that if you invest in these people and expose yourself to them, not in a sexual way, right? But in a, you expose your underbelly, you allow yourself to be hurt if they choose to hurt. That's where the riches are. So it's the old expression of, what if I invest in these people and they leave? No. What if you don't and they stay?
Yeah. So
we give simple math. It's gym owners typically, especially successful ones, have a financial planner who helps them. What would your financial planner tell you that your housing can cost? Like, how much can you spend on where you live? 25% or less than what I make. Okay. What are your trainers paid? What is the most a trainer can expect to earn without grinding their face off? Like, if they did 25 training sessions a week, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
What can they expect to earn? And they do the math. They're like, $600-$700. I'm like, great. Find me a place within a 5-mile radius of your gym that you would be happy with your daughter living in, where that person can pay rent with less than 25% of what they make. There isn't a path for them to be successful.
Yeah.
So the mistake that gym owners are typically making is that they are assuming the worst in their staff.
Mm-hmm.
They see people as transient, next trainer up.
Right.
Invest in people, expect to keep them for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And when they leave in 5, we just had one of our staff members leave Active Life at the flagship to open another gym in town for youth sports performance, because that's what he's inspired to do. He's asked me to continue mentoring him. He's still telling, he's like, it's going to be great because all of the kids who come to me have parents who should come to Active Life. I invested in excess of $20,000 into this guy, plus his salary and time.
Yeah.
And he left in a year. He's forever grateful.
Yep.
Let's just assume they're going to stay and treat them that way.
I love that.
Thanks.
You know Alan Cosgrove?
I know we have a client who also works with or worked with Alan Cosgrove, so that's our.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's
loose.
a good friend of mine for over 20 years. One thing that I love, he would always say that he would hire the bartender down the street who had great people skills way before he would hire the guy who comes in and is like, you know, the master of textbooks and moment arms and all these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so what portion of the education goes into that, into the people skills things? Because, and I'm going to say this, and no offense to anyone in the fitness industry, but I've been in it for almost 30 years. In general, not the greatest people skills. A lot of us grew up, myself, the reason we started weight training, shy, insecure, socially awkward, didn't have great people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And that describes even close friends of mine, a lot of us. So we didn't have those kind of people skills, and that doesn't really work for building a great business because people don't give a shit if you know what angle the incline should be at, you know?
Right. There's a lot of scarcity in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear that like this client's going to leave me. This trainer is going to leave our business.
Yeah.
It's the same. I think every service industry has an element of it. I got into a fun conversation with a real estate agent last week who was upset that other agents were cold calling her clients. I said, I would love people to cold call my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it. I couldn't wait for the stories that they would tell.
Yeah.
Because I want to be ever present as a value in their life that they would never leave for a cold caller.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's a sidebar.
But that's confidence, and that's you doing such a great job. Like I would tell anyone who's in the top 1% in the world, call any of my clients.
100%.
Yeah, do it. They ain't leaving. I've had in-person clients for 15 years. Now I don't do in-person much really, you know, it's not a part of my business. But I've had multiple in-person clients for 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've even had online clients for I could name a handful of guys that have been with me 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot.
Yeah, and I imagine all of them could leave today and be successful, but they choose to stay because you bring more value than the money you charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that we help, the question was about how we help the coach do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really just through most of the curriculum is the X's and the O's. Because that's stuff that you can teach at a predictable pace.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to understand planes of motion, joint actions, what tempo does, like energy systems. You have to understand that stuff. The personal development happens more on the in-betweens. It happens from the conversations that arise as a result of the problems that they're experiencing in their business. And that's where the mentorship comes in. That's where the other people who are in the program with them come in. It's where our subject matter experts come in. It's where our live events come in. It's where our podcast comes in, frankly. And there's some of it in the curriculum. But the some of it that's in the curriculum is just teaching you how to think about what you're thinking about. It's not telling you what to think. You know, it's one of my favorite expressions is instead of telling people what to look at, just show them where to look and let them decide what they want to see. We ask people to look in a certain direction. One of the first things that we have them do is watch a video that I thought was amazing commercial that Dove soap put out years ago. They put out this commercial that it asked people to describe, like they're through a curtain to a sketch artist for like the police. Describe what you look like. So they describe what they look like and the guy finishes a drawing. And then like a bunch of people in their life who are really important to them come in and they describe the same person to the same sketch artist. And he draws that. And the sketch artist doesn't know who he's drawing. He's just taking the advisement. Then they bring the people who gave the sketch artist their image first. They bring them back in and they let them look at all these different images of them. What they look like compared to what their friends described they look like is like the Wicked Witch of the West compared to the Wicked Witch compared to like, you know, the Witch of the East.
Okay.
They're ugly.
Uh-huh.
And their friends think they're beautiful.
Wow.
And so what we teach them through that is start asking the most important people in your life how they would describe you.
Yeah.
And how you show up for them in their lives.
I love it.
So that you can start to get some affirmation that you are someone who you didn't realize you already were.
Yeah.
Then we teach them about the reticular activating system, which is the concept that you will find what you think about.
Mm-hmm.
You think about silver Mercedes. You think no one ever drives one. You go buy one. You pull off the lot and 4 drive past you.
Right.
We teach them what are the things in your life that you want to find. You need to be writing them down. we take them through something called Storywork, which is a product of my friend Mark England, who owns a company called Unlifted, teaching people about language. Storywork is essentially...
Sorry, I just had the craziest moment when you talked about the reticular activating system. I believe in that. And you know that. Like, I practice and preach that. But you saying that, I just went, oh, my God, I didn't even realize what just happened 2 weeks ago. So it's amazing. You just illustrated real life thinking about something and then it happened.
What happened 2 weeks ago?
It's too long of a story,
Okay.
but we'll get into it another time. But yeah.
So the next thing is Storywork. We ask people to write down the story about who they are, what they're like, all the things that are true about them.
Mm.
And usually the stories are bullshit.
Yeah.
And then we have them go back in and read it really slow, out loud. Read it with breaths. Then go in and write all the what ifs. What if the good stuff? What if the thing that you're fearing, what if the thing that's in your way wasn't true? What if you could do that? And we just have them go through all of these different exercises to start shaping their brain in such a way that they see themselves as more likely to be successful than not, because they are someone they never imagined they already were. Mm. The reason our core value, one of them, is reveal the exceptional in everyone we come across instead of develop the exceptional in everyone we come across, is because it's already there.
Right.
Our job is to help them see it. So it's exercises like those three, and they're ongoing. I
love that. I geek out on exercises like that. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know you do. Mm-hmm. In general, I mean, I'm sure you probably have a list, but some stuff that we didn't cover. What do you see about the fitness industry that you would want to wave a magic wand and change? What drives you nuts?
I actually made a post about this today on my Instagram account. I get on my flight and this guy sits down next to me and he's in his 60s and he's wearing a mask. And the first thing I'm thinking about, the initial thought was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, that's not even a mask that would work if it did work.
Right.
That's a cloth mask.
Yeah.
And then I took the moment, like that's stimulus. Uh-huh. And then I evaluated how it made me feel, and then I provided a response. And I just said, hey, you traveling home or are you leaving home? And he had to take the mask off to answer me. And he explains, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. I said, what were you in New York for? I was in New York to visit my daughter. How often do you come out to visit her? She just moved, so we were out here helping her do all this stuff. Awesome. Where in LA do you live? Starts telling me. I'm like, great. What kind of stuff do you like to do out there? I'm heading out there for the first, I'm just getting into conversation with this guy. The conversation ends up with him telling me, I'm not healthy. I'm afraid. I want to be able to move better.
Sean, quick thing here, and this is just my OCD because I obsess over this kind of stuff. I love this. So earlier you said you don't like small talk. Did you have a goal in mind here to get to, or do you just talk to people in general like that?
I talk to people in general like that because I don't see that as small talk.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this person who's going to be sitting next to me for 6 hours.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it might be a 4-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But, I mean, where we ended up, there was nothing small about it at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But you didn't go in with that goal in mind.
No, I don't have a goal in mind.
You're just curious about people.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
The waiter. Like, we're never going to get there with the waiter.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the person who is pouring my drinks and bringing food back. I want them to feel good.
Yeah.
Because
do you remember our waiter's name at Caroline's?
I don't.
Aaron.
Yeah. There are things I register to memory because I feel like there's going to be another occurrence of it.
Yeah.
And then there are things that just do not. I remembered his name for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then it was gone.
Yeah. So anyway, you're having this conversation with the guy.
So it leads to him talking about how I'm afraid I'm not going to age well because my mom didn't age well. My dad died young. I already had a stint put in. I don't exercise because I don't know how to, and I'm intimidated to start. I don't know what I'm supposed to eat because everyone tells me these different things.
Right.
I wear this mask, and I know it's irrational.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I wear it because when people cough, and I don't know what's what. It's something I can do to make myself feel safe.
Wow.
I'm like, damn, okay. Would it be okay with you if I help? It's like, sure. What happened after that is inconsequential. Like, what happened after that is I told him, go buy Gabrielle Lyon's book and then go to your doctors with more informed questions. And if you like them, if you like their answers, continue working with them. If you don't, go work with somebody else. But get yourself informed. told them download the Active Life community app so that you can learn about exercise. It's free. So you can learn about exercise, learn about mindset, learn about what you could be doing, and then make some decisions. Start spending 5 to 10 minutes a day doing something active, just so that you can start to identify as a person who does an active thing every day. And make sure that at least one of the things that you're doing has resistance in it. Air squats, push-ups to a chair, a table, it doesn't matter. You focus on building muscle instead of losing fat, and you'll have a much better mindset around things, because I'm building something. I'm not getting rid of part of me that I don't like.
Right.
And I gave him my phone number. And I said, anytime you have a question, anytime you feel overwhelmed, you send me a message. And I will follow up with you too. And I do this everywhere I go. I had a conversation with an Uber driver in Texas who ended up same path. Connected him directly to a nutrition coach who could help him. We have to do that.
Yeah.
Collectively. We have the choice as a fitness industry that we can sit around in our little groups and joke and complain and lament about the decay of the health in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And we can celebrate ourselves and pat ourselves on the back for the way that we help our own clients get the results that they get, and then say, if everybody would work with us, everybody would have these results and all the problems are gone. We're so valuable.
Right.
Or we can start making sure that the people who are not getting good conversation, who are not being challenged, who are not being offered an on-ramp, start getting offered that. That I used to feel like was my responsibility. I've come to understand that's our responsibility. I'm happy to teach you how to do it. I'm happy to ask you the question so that you can do it well and feel comfortable with it. It is our responsibility as a fitness industry to do that every single time we have an opportunity.
Wow. Amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. Like I told you, I had a million notes here, but I really haven't.
You can go to them. I'm not in a rush. But like to give people a way to practice this kind of stuff,
mm-hmm.
something I really like to do is notice the invisible people. So when I was walking around today, saw this guy raking leaves. And I just walked over and said, hey, thank you. I appreciate you keeping this walk clean. He's like, oh, you're welcome. And he smiled big. I started walking away. And I'm like, you know what? There's more. I want to reveal this to people. So I walked back. I said, can I ask you a question? And do you mind if I record your answer? And he said, sure. Doesn't speak very good English, so he was a little nervous. But so I said, okay. So I turned the camera on and I said, I appreciate you keeping this walk clean. How many times a day do people say thank you to you? And he's like, today? 1. You. He said, some days maybe 2, maybe 3, typically older people, but usually people just walk by. I said, would you like people to say thank you more often? He's like, well, I said, I know you don't expect it.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel when people say thank you? He's like, makes me feel good because I'm here trying to make this place nice for you all to enjoy, to see the view and all of this. I said, I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. That felt so good for me, and I want people to experience that.
Yeah.
And imagine if the invisible people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's an invisible person. You typically just walk by that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how much better their lives were if everybody who walked by said thank you to them.
Yeah.
Are they likely to be healthier if we do that? Yeah. Are we likely to be more comfortable getting into conversations with people if we do that for them all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to what we were saying before about, being in the flow state of being present. Same, you just said it. You said that made you feel good.
It felt great.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, well, there's a few things, but one thing that I really liked, and we've kind of alluded to it a little bit, but you said in a recent post, you said, I compromised for years. That guy is gone. Mm-hmm. Anything else that we could elaborate on that?
We could do a fucking 7-hour podcast on that.
Yeah.
Let me start by explaining what I mean by compromise. Our mission statement is to empower a life of freedom without compromise. So the simplest way to think of it is freedom without compromise. You say to someone, what would your life be like if you had complete freedom to do whatever you want? They describe it. You say to them, hold on a second. What things did you just compromise on when you said that, because you can't imagine something bigger. You're still living here.
Yeah.
Is this where you want to live? You're still friends with these people? Are these people you want to be friends with? You're still making this much money? Is that what you want to be making? You're still doing this for a living? Is that what you want to be doing for a living? Those are all compromises.
Right.
We compromise on the way we look. We compromise on the way we feel. We compromise on the quality of our relationships, our conversation, our presence, all the time.
Yeah.
There are only 3 reasons that I believe why people compromise. 1 is they lack awareness to the compromises that they're making. And we're all doing that all the time. It's the don't know, don't know. 2, they do know, but they're scared to take the actions that they need to take to change the compromise. Either because they don't know how to do it or because they do and they're afraid they won't be successful. I have empathy for those people. I have sympathy for those people. I'm here for them. 3, they know and they're just too lazy to do something about it. I was in the scared. I was in the scared boat.
Mm-hmm.
I spent so much of my life growing up being the guy who just cut people off at the knees by accident. I was the guy who would say, do you want to fucking win or not? This is what it takes.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't patient enough to ask the questions, to get the other person there. And so I was scared to speak how I wanted to speak. It wasn't until recently, when I was really working on these core values and this mission statement, that I realized I have put in so much work over the last 6 years, so much work to be the guy I always aspired to be. It's time to just let that guy out and expect that I can trust myself to show up in a way that I would be proud to show up for myself and for other people. And so all of the things I was compromising on are gone. My primary goal at work is to create a safe and inspiring work environment where our staff can be successful at pursuing a mutually shared mission with our clients. I was too soft for a long time. And recently I rewrote our core values. And one of our core values is balance is only found in doing world-class work. My fear about saying something like that out loud is that they would all think that means Sean wants us to work on Christmas. Like Sean just wants us to work. No, it means if you're doing something and you're mailing it in and you can sleep at night, I don't want you to work here. Show up and do the best job you can imagine doing and then ask how you can do it better. And if you do that all the time, you're going to be present at work and you're going to need a break from that. I don't care if the break starts at 2 p.m. and ends the next day, or if it starts at 9 p.m. or 2 a.m. I don't care when you're working and when you're not.
Yeah.
I want you to be present all the time in all of the things. And the only way to do that is to be pursuing something world-class. I was afraid to say that for a long time. I had a team-first mentality was our core value. I changed that to relentless commitment to the mission because I've fired people from the team. And the question comes up, why would that person get fired? Because they weren't committed to the mission. They didn't share our core values. Well, then it's not team first. It's mission first. I was afraid that they'd be like, am I next? But they were energized by me stepping into this. One of our staff members actually said, I feel like these are the things that you have been feeling and wanting for a really long time. And you finally came out and said them to us. I said, that's true. And then I nervously waited for the next thing. And he's like, that fires me up. I said, thank you.
Were you nervous, scared about offending people, what people thought of you?
I was. Always.
Okay.
And then specifically in this scenario. And then I had to fire a staff member. And immediately after I fired the staff member, who I stood in front of for like a year and stopped him from getting fired. Because I was like, I like this person and we all like this person and we all want this person to be successful. We need to help more. We need to provide better opportunities. It's an us problem. It's not a him problem. Finally, it got to the point that I couldn't stand in the way anymore. And immediately afterwards, it was validated that I should have done it a year ago. And I was like, you know what? World class or bust. Like, you don't have to be world class today to be here, but you have to have world class as your target on the map.
Yeah.
And that means all of the stuff that goes with it. And it all became so clear because the clients we used to get sometimes were great clients and sometimes they were people who we had to work really hard to help because they were so scared. They didn't have the money to do it. They did it anyway. And we're the company who knows everybody's name. We know if they're married. We know if they have kids. We feel their pain. We have more opportunity for one-on-one mentorship and time. And you have to succeed when you work with us.
Yeah.
This is not like show up for the calls and do the thing or don't.
Right.
You have to succeed. So it finally became clear to me, I want the top 10% and only those among them who want to be in the top 1% to be our clients. And in the past, I'd be afraid to say that because I felt bad about making people who didn't feel as though they were in the top 10% feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I understand the top 10% is not an achievement-oriented thing. It's a mindset.
Right.
It's all I want.
Yeah.
So the compromises are gone.
What about, let me just see here before I get to, there's something I do want to ask you, but I'm just going to see if there's anything else. I mean, we've covered so much here.
Well, while you're going through it, another compromise was I used to not do work travel as much as I could have or should have because I didn't want time away from my wife and kids. I made the decision if I travel for work and it makes sense and I want her there, I'm going to bring my wife with me.
Okay.
Whatever that has to cost at home. And so you met my wife in Austin.
Yeah.
No more compromises.
Wow. Well, it's funny because that's a perfect segue. That's what I wanted to ask you about because I had the pleasure of meeting Kim in Austin. We had breakfast. We hung out at the after party. And I was really, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you or not. I think I did. I was really taken aback by the dynamic you guys have, the relationship, the support. Definitely the support stands out because it's a rarity, unfortunately. And just, you guys having fun together and like there was just such a great energy. She has a great energy. But you guys together, I noticed those things. I grew up, in the complete opposite environment, so I always notice those things. And it was really impressive. So, and now you guys do podcasts together and you talk openly about that. And you've had, some interesting exchanges on there. Just talk about that a little bit because obviously it's more of a rarity to have a great marriage than not. So just talk about your relationship a little bit.
It's another example of compromise. I have felt guilty about how good it is.
Interesting.
That I haven't shared about it.
Wow.
And I've decided why should I do that? I should allow other people to see what we have and aspire to have it. My wife, Kimberly, whatever she wants me to call her these days, is the most supportive person I've ever met. Wow. She's my biggest fan. She's always believed I can do whatever I put my mind to. And she's always given me the space to fail and to not be a failure. There's a difference. There's failing and there's being a failure.
Yeah.
She's the one who provides the enthusiasm for me between the failures. Right? So all I want to do is make her proud, make her happy, and make her feel safe, make her feel inspired every single day. And so there's been a lot of work that's gone into that. I didn't used to wear a wedding ring because it's inconvenient to lift wearing a wedding ring. Once I realized I needed to be a better person, got a wedding ring. I was like, I'm going to wear it because I don't think it's a big deal because I know you love me and I know I love you. But it means a lot to you that I would go out in public and tell people I'm not available.
Yeah.
So here it is. She used to work as a teacher. She loved being a teacher. She disliked everything around teaching.
Right.
The commute, the parents she had to deal with, like all of that stuff. And so one day I was like, look, we have 3 kids. They go to school a half a mile away down the block. We bought this house with your vision in mind, walking the dog and the kids to that school and then walking home and then having a great day. That's an impossibility as long as you work. You should stop working. She was making $120,000 a year plus benefits. I was not making enough to allow her to stop working. And she's like, what are we going to do? And I was like, we're going to figure it out. And she stopped working. She gives me credibility because she's such a good person that there's no way she would be with me if I didn't have some of that.
Yeah.
And I'm just incredibly grateful for her. We hired, right in the middle of the pandemic, a woman named Alexa Martinez, who her Instagram handle, I think, is still @thatsexchick. Hired her for sex advice. I'm like, it's kind of vanilla, right? Like I get on top and I pump, or I lay there and take it. And that's kind of it. And I'm not looking for butt plugs or nipple clamps. I don't know what I'm looking for. But I'm looking for something. Yeah, sex lives get vanilla.
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes it's because, you know what? I'm not going to speculate.
Well, I think so many times what happens is the male wants his woman to be too many things, right? You're my business partner, you're my roommate, you're doing this, you're doing that. And we inadvertently or unknowingly force them into their masculine energy, maybe more so than they should be. And that's not a great dynamic for a relationship either.
That wasn't our problem because my wife knows she wants no part of that stuff.
Okay.
Our problem was my insecurity. So, and I think this probably happens for other guys, but I won't speak for him. I wasn't that good. Like I know how to get on top and pump.
Yeah.
And I can touch some things and like, you know, click this button, pull this lever, but I didn't know what I was doing. There was no plan. There was no romance. It was like, so do you want to have sex tonight or?
Yeah.
You know, like, and the more that I would want sex, the less that she would want sex because it constantly became a conversation about like, hey, are we going to have, you want to have sex tonight? Like, what are you supposed to say when you're married for 7 years, 8 years, whatever it was at the time, 10 probably, 10. What are you supposed to, like, how do you initiate sex?
Yeah.
Because before marriage, it's we're going on dates.
Right.
And then we're going to go back and we're probably going to make out and that probably is going to lead to sex. Now that we're not doing that every time we go out, it's not a date. How do we get there?
Yeah.
And hiring Alexa was really helpful in all of that. And she helped, like she sent me to resources that made me better in bed. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm way more open to like whatever she needs. It doesn't have to be that I'm this sex god getting her there.
Yeah.
It can just be whatever my wife needs, I can meet her there. In the bed, in our parenting, in the business, in taking care of the house, whatever she needs, I can meet her there. And all of them have gotten better.
Wow. Interesting. And when you say your insecurity, meaning like, I mean, you obviously elaborated on it, but like you didn't know certain things or you were just like,
you know what, it's,
I mean, and sometimes too, it's a challenge where, especially if it's the mother of your kids or it's someone who's now become also your good friend versus when you first start dating, it's just like, I just want to ravage this girl, you know?
Well, it's Tom Segura has a joke about it where he's like, every guy thinks they can do these things. Every guy thinks they're funny.
Yeah.
Every guy thinks they can fight.
Yeah.
Every guy thinks they know cars. And every guy thinks they're good at bed.
Right.
But they're not good at any of it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you meet someone who does that thing for a living, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I suck at these things.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't great in bed.
Okay.
And it bothered me, but I was also insecure about saying like, hey, I don't feel like I'm satisfying you in a way that I would feel proud to do it. And so finally I was just like, you know what? Things are good. I interviewed this chick on the podcast. What do you think? You want to work with her? It sounds cool, right? That's how I was able to broach the topic.
Okay.
And then working with her, it allowed us to really just start to step into much more vulnerable conversations. And that was empowering. What I like to tell people is I am untouchable. You can't get at me because I've gotten at myself. I know where I'm weak. I want to find areas that I don't know I'm weak. And so there's nothing that you're going to be able to do that's going to make me feel small because I know who I am.
Yeah.
And
just thinking of the battle scene from 8 Mile.
when I've only watched that movie once. You're, you're the
Okay,
rap
I've seen
guy.
it
I like
50
rap
times.
music.
Yeah,
You like
right,
rap.
right. Basically, Eminem goes up to battle someone, and before the other guy can go, he raps all his flaws and all the stuff the other guy's gonna say. So it's like, what can the other guy say? The guy couldn't even rap; he had nothing to say.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I feel
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you found something new?
Yeah.
Great. That's so great. Thank you.
Right.
And the last frontier for that with me, I thought, was with my wife.
Mhm.
I don't know how to tell you what I want.
Mm.
I don't know how to make you want it. I don't know how to do a good enough job that you're coming back for more.
Mm.
None of those things.
Yeah.
So I learned.
Wow. Were those when you worked with? I'm sorry. What was her name?
Alexa Martinez.
Was that awkward and uncomfortable at first?
No.
No.
She made it very comfortable. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I thought, like, it's a Zoom call. I thought she was going to be like, all right, take off your pants. She never did that.
Yeah.
It was, the first thing that I think the first thing, but it might not have been the first thing that she had us do was sit across from each other, like 2 feet, and just stare into each other's eyes for 2 minutes. No words. And we both started crying. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't cry.
Huh.
Like, I don't cry a lot. I know I've talked about a few times I've cried on the podcast, but
Yeah.
I'm not you've probably heard all of them.
Yeah.
It was so emotionally connecting. And then we were able to get into conversations about things. She gave us resources. Like, one of the things she gave us that was really helpful.
No, I'm just focused on why you cried. Was it as simple as life is always busy and we're managing the business and the kids and this and that, and we've never actually sat down in a long time and been this fucking focused on each other and present? Or
I never really sat down to evaluate why.
Okay.
But when you mention it like that connects.
Yeah.
That could be why.
Okay.
But then she gave us like this thing called the will, won't, want list. So
the will.
Will, won't, want.
Okay.
So it's this list of like 150 things.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know you could do 150 things in the bedroom.
You have to send me this list.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's what are the things I will do to her?
Okay.
What are the things, and then the same thing on the other side. Will I let her do this to me?
Okay.
What are the things I won't do to her and won't let her do to me? What are the things I want to do to her and want her to do to me?
Okay.
So you're answering for me to her,
Mm-hmm.
and then the same question's her to me. And then she's doing the same thing. Then you go through the list. And it's like, you want that too?
Mm.
Cool.
Now, on your part, was there any hesitation where you're like, oh, fuck, I kind of want this, but there's no way I could ask her for it?
There would have been if Alexa didn't create the environment in which that was not reasonable.
Okay.
And that actually came up because one of the things on the list was like a butt plug.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'd rather stick my dick in an electric socket. and she said, she like kept her calm.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, why do you think you have such an intense response to something that other people love?
Uh-huh.
I was like, I don't know. Like, do I actually want butt plugs? I don't. But it got me to the place of like, yeah, that was a really immature response. Why did I do that? And that allowed us to really have these conversations.
So fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this has been unbelievable. It's been the longest podcast of the night, which, again, I think you asked me at the beginning, why do you think you had so many of those questions? Just because I know you, not that we know each other extremely well, but I know that there's so many things I want to ask you, so much you have to talk about, so much depth. So it's been amazing. Is there anything that we didn't talk about or that you wish I asked you?
Oh, man. There's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about.
Sure.
I don't know if I wish you asked it of me, but I guess what I want people to take from this is that it's our responsibility together, collectively, to become the best version of ourselves that we possibly can be, because it's only in doing that we can be valuable to other people.
Right.
And that's one of the posts that we both made, right? I talked to Kelly Starrett about the idea of, I think that we need to focus on becoming the best version of ourselves and be selfish. What do I want? What do I need? So that we can have more to give to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you made a very similar post. We're in this together. And we can either be upset about the way that people don't show up, or we can show up in a way that changes how they are around us. And I loved how you spoke about that in Austin. That guy complains, not when he's with me, he doesn't.
Yeah.
That guy's negative, not when he's with me. That guy drinks a lot, not when he's with me. We have the power to change how other people show up simply by changing who we are.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to take from this.
I love it. Love it. Man, this was such an enjoyable conversation. Thank you so much, my man. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it, Sean. And just give everyone, websites, social, where they could follow you, find out everything you guys got going.
The website is under construction, so
Okay.
I don't want to send
Okay.
people there just
All
yet.
right.
But come follow me on Instagram at Dr. Sean Pastuch. And then jump your feet into our podcast, the Active Life Podcast. Everything that you need to find from me is linked on my Instagram somewhere. And I want you to come. I want you to engage with me. I want you to follow. I'm going to tell you thank you for following me when you do. You're going to be surprised I did what I said I was going to do because it's rare.
Yeah.
And I want a relationship with you no matter how big or small. And if it ends up working out that we should work together in a formal way where you're a client, great. And if it doesn't, just as good.
Yeah.
But I want you to come, take my content in, cast a judgment, ask me questions, engage with me, and give me a shot.
Amazing. Sean, thank you so much, my man.